Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! The silence wrapped around Lachlan like an eerie cloak as he paced through the empty rooms, a guest in his own home. Each step echoed, magnifying the void Hannah's departure had carved into their sanctuary. "Just 4 weeks," he murmured, eyeing the calendar where her departure and return dates taunted him in vibrant red. A month seemed an eternity in the face of their recent closeness. In the 5 years since their wedding, Lachlan and Hannah had rarely strayed far from each other's sides, with fleeting weekend separations the most they'd endured. But this trip, a pivotal career opportunity for her marketing firm, had created an enigmatic gulf in the heart of their everyday lives. 3 days of desultory mealtimes and clutter had Lachlan determined to reclaim normalcy. He started with their bedroom, gathering laundry and changing sheets. While straightening Hannah's side of the bathroom counter, he paused at her extensive collection of skincare products. 3 shelves of creams, serums, masks, and cleansers stood in perfect order, untouched since her departure. Picking up a pink bottle, he turned it over in his hands. "Rose Facial Cleanser," he read aloud, popping the cap to smell it. The scent instantly reminded him of Hannah, fresh and floral with a hint of sweetness. Standing there alone in their bathroom, Lachlan felt a pang of loneliness. On impulse, he squeezed a dollop of the cleanser into his palm and massaged it into his face, closing his eyes as the familiar scent enveloped him. The sensation was pleasant, cool and soothing against his skin. After rinsing, he peered at his reflection. His face looked brighter somehow, cleaner. He ran his fingers across his cheek, surprised by how soft it felt. "Huh," he said to his reflection, a small smile playing at his lips. That night, he slept better than he had since Hannah left. The next evening, after a long day at the architectural firm where he worked, Lachlan found himself drawn back to Hannah's side of the bathroom. This time, he noticed a bottle labeled toner that Hannah always used after cleansing. Remembering her routine, he dabbed some onto a cotton pad and swept it across his face, the subtle tingle refreshing his tired skin. Behind the bathroom door hung Hannah's pink satin robe. Without thinking too much about it, Lachlan slipped it on, the smooth fabric cool against his skin. It was slightly small for his frame, the sleeves ending above his wrists and the hem hitting mid-thigh, but the comfort it provided was immediate. He found her matching pink slippers and slid his feet into them. Padding around the house in Hannah's robe and slippers, Lachlan felt closer to her somehow. He made dinner, watched TV, and eventually fell asleep on the couch, wrapped in satin and the lingering scent of her perfume. By the end of the first week, Lachlan had incorporated Hannah's facial cleanser and toner into his nightly routine. He'd started using her moisturizer too, amazed at how much better his skin looked and felt. The dark circles under his eyes, a staple feature from years of late nights working on architectural designs, had begun to fade. During a video call with Hannah, she noticed immediately. "You look different," she said, her face pixelated, but her voice clear from thousands of miles away. "Are you sleeping better?" Lachlan touched his cheek self-consciously. "I guess I am. How's Milan?" "Hectic," Hannah sighed. "But the team here is fantastic. I miss you, though."
"Miss you too,"
he replied, not mentioning the robe hanging on the back of the bathroom door, or how he'd started looking forward to his nightly skincare ritual. After the call ended, Lachlan wandered into their bedroom and opened Hannah's side of the closet. Her clothes hung in neat rows, blouses, dresses, skirts, each item carefully selected and organized by color. He ran his fingers along the fabrics, stopping at a silky blouse in deep purple. Without analyzing his actions too deeply, he slipped the blouse off its hanger and held it against himself, looking in the full-length mirror mounted on the closet door. The color complemented his auburn hair, which he'd let grow a bit longer since Hannah left. On impulse, he pulled off his t-shirt and put on the blouse. It was tight across his shoulders and chest, but the sensation of the fabric against his skin sent a shiver down his spine. For the first time, he noticed how the auburn of his hair contrasted with the deep purple. He'd never paid much attention to his hair color before. It was just hair, but now he found himself appreciating the warm, rich tones. That night, he slept in Hannah's robe again, but this time with the strange new awareness that something was shifting inside him. By the beginning of the second week, Lachlan had established a morning and evening skincare routine using Hannah's products. His skin had never looked better, and there was something calming about the ritual itself. The methodical steps, the scents, the self-care that he'd always dismissed as unnecessary. On Tuesday evening, after finishing a particularly challenging project at work, Lachlan found himself standing in front of Hannah's vanity. Her makeup bag sat untouched, and with a curiosity he couldn't explain, he unzipped it. Inside were dozens of products: foundations, powders, eyeshadows, and several tubes of lipstick. He picked up a gold tube and twisted it open, revealing a rich red color that Hannah often wore for special occasions. Without giving himself time to reconsider, he leaned toward the mirror and carefully applied it to his lips. The transformation was immediate and startling. The red made his lips look fuller, more defined against his pale skin. It brought out the green in his eyes and complemented his auburn hair in a way he'd never imagined. Next, he found a tube of black mascara. Remembering how Hannah applied it, he carefully coated his lashes, blinking at his reflection as they darkened and lengthened.
What are you doing?
He whispered to himself, but there was no judgment in the question, only wonder. That night, before washing off the makeup, Lachlan took a photo of himself. He studied it for a long time before deleting it, conflicted by how much he liked what he saw. The next day, Lachlan found himself browsing online clothing stores during his lunch break. Before he could talk himself out of it, he ordered 2 floral sundresses and a pair of beige heels in his size. He selected express shipping without thinking twice. When the package arrived 2 days later, Lachlan's heart raced as he carried it inside. He opened it in the bedroom, laying out the contents on the bed. The sundresses, one in a blue floral pattern and one in a yellow daisy print, looked cheerful and light. The beige heels were simple but elegant, with a modest 2-inch heel. With trembling hands, he undressed and slipped the blue floral dress over his head. It fell past his knees, the fabric soft and flowing. Looking in the mirror, he was struck by how natural it felt. His auburn hair, now brushing his shoulders after weeks without a haircut, complemented the blue flowers perfectly. He stepped into the heels next, wobbling slightly before finding his balance. The shoes added height and changed his posture, making his shoulders pull back and his spine straighten. For the first time, Lachlan didn't just see himself wearing a dress. He saw a different version of himself emerging, one that had perhaps always existed beneath the surface. That evening, he followed Hannah's entire beauty regimen, from cleanser to night cream. He applied foundation, blush, eyeshadow, mascara, and the red lipstick, taking his time to get each step right. He put on the yellow sundress and spent the evening cooking dinner, listening to music, and simply existing in this new form. Before bed, he took another photo, and this time, he didn't delete it. By the end of the second week, Lachlan had ordered more clothes, pastel blouses, a pencil skirt, another sundress in a green pattern that brought out his eyes, and comfortable flats for everyday wear. He'd started wearing light makeup to work, just mascara and tinted lip balm, and no one had commented, though he caught a few curious glances. At home, he fully embraced his new routine. He'd wash his face, apply Hannah's skincare products, put on makeup, and dress in his new clothes. His auburn hair had grown enough that he could style it in a feminine way, tucking it behind his ears or pulling it back with clips he'd purchased. During their video calls, Hannah noticed the changes in his appearance but didn't comment directly. She seemed preoccupied with her work, and Lachlan didn't volunteer information about his transformation. Part of him worried about her reaction, while another part looked forward to showing her this new version of himself. 3 days before Hannah was due to return, Lachlan made a decision. He took a day off work and visited a salon, asking for a proper styling of his auburn hair. The stylist suggested layers to frame his face and showed him how to use product to enhance his natural waves. The result was undeniably feminine, soft waves of auburn falling just past his shoulders. That same day, he went shopping in person for the first time, nervously entering a department store and making his way to the women's section. A kind sales associate helped him find clothes that fit his frame better than his online purchases, including a beautiful emerald green dress that complemented his auburn hair and eyes perfectly.
You have such gorgeous coloring,
the associate commented, holding the dress against him.
This green with your auburn hair is stunning.
Lachlan blushed, unused to such compliments, but treasuring them all the same. On his way home, he stopped at a cosmetics store and purchased his own set of skincare and makeup products, selecting items similar to Hannah's but tailored to his preferences. The sales associate helped him find the right foundation shade and suggested a coral lipstick that would complement his coloring better than Hannah's red. The evening before Hannah's return, Lachlan cleaned the house thoroughly, making sure everything was perfect. He arranged his new clothing in the spare bedroom closet and set up his own vanity space in the guest bathroom. Part of him wondered if he should revert to his old self before Hannah arrived, but the thought made his chest tighten with anxiety. This wasn't a phase or a way to cope with loneliness. It had become something essential to who he was. The morning Hannah was due home, Lachlan dressed carefully in the emerald green dress, applied light makeup, and styled his auburn hair in soft waves. He prepared her favorite breakfast and waited nervously, his heart pounding each time he heard a car pass by their house. When the taxi finally pulled into the driveway, Lachlan stood frozen in the kitchen, suddenly unsure of everything. The sound of the front door opening seemed impossibly loud. "Lachlan!" Hannah called, her voice sending a wave of both comfort and anxiety through him.
"In the kitchen,"
he replied, his voice catching. Hannah appeared in the doorway, looking tired but happy from her trip. She wore a simple black blazer and trousers, her blonde hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She stopped abruptly when she saw him, her eyes widening as she took in the emerald dress, the makeup, the styled auburn hair. For a long moment, neither spoke. Lachlan's hands twisted together nervously as he waited for her reaction. "Oh," Hannah finally said, setting down her bag. "This is not what I expected to come home to." Lachlan swallowed hard.
"I can explain."
Hannah raised a hand, shaking her head. "You don't have to. Not right away." She stepped closer, her expression softening as she studied his face. "Your skin looks amazing." A surprised laugh escaped him. "That's what you notice?" Hannah smiled, reaching out to touch his cheek gently. "Well, that and the fact that you're wearing a dress that I would absolutely borrow if it fit me." Her eyes traveled over him again, taking in the details. "You look beautiful, Lachlan. Different, but beautiful." Relief washed over him, so powerful that his knees felt weak. "You're not upset?" "Surprised, yes." "Upset?" Hannah shook her head again. "I'm trying to understand. Is this who you are now?" Lachlan took a deep breath. "I think maybe it's who I've always been. Underneath, it started with your skincare stuff, then the robe, and then it just felt right. I can't really explain it better than that." Hannah nodded slowly. "You don't have to explain it all at once. We have time." She glanced at the breakfast he'd prepared. "Is that French toast?" "Your favorite," Lachlan confirmed, grateful for the momentary shift in focus. They sat down to eat, the conversation moving to safer topics. Hannah's trip, the people she'd met, the deals she'd secured. But Lachlan could feel her eyes on him, curious and thoughtful. After breakfast, Hannah unpacked while Lachlan cleaned up. When she returned to the kitchen, she was holding one of his new lipsticks. "Coral is a good choice for you," she said, turning the tube in her fingers. "Much better with your coloring than my red." Lachlan smiled hesitantly. "The sales associate suggested it." Hannah set the lipstick down and moved closer to him. "Your eyeliner is a little uneven. Want me to show you how I do mine?" The offer, so casual and accepting, brought unexpected tears to Lachlan's eyes. "You'd do that?" "Of course," Hannah said, her own eyes softening. "Though I have to warn you, you're already better at eyeshadow blending than I am." That afternoon, they sat at Hannah's vanity together, and she showed him techniques for applying eyeliner, contouring his face, and using setting spray to make his makeup last longer. The intimacy of the moment, Hannah's gentle hands on his face, her patient instructions, the shared space of the vanity, felt like a new kind of connection between them. "How long have you been feeling this way?" Hannah asked, as she demonstrated how to create a more defined Cupid's bow with lip liner. Lachlan considered the question. "I'm not sure. It didn't feel like a sudden realization, more like discovering something that was always there." Hannah nodded, her expression thoughtful. "What should I call you? Do you still want to be Lachlan?" The question caught him off guard. He hadn't thought about changing his name. "I don't know. I haven't really thought that far ahead." "That's okay," Hannah assured him. "There's no rush to figure everything out at once." That evening, they ordered takeout and sat in the living room, talking more openly about the changes of the past month. Lachlan showed Hannah his new clothes, and she offered suggestions for building his wardrobe further. "You need more everyday pieces," she advised. "Sundresses are lovely, but not very practical for work." "I've been wearing my old clothes to work," Lachlan admitted, "just with a little mascara and lip balm." Hannah tilted her head, considering. "Is that what you want? To keep your work life separate?" Lachlan sighed, running a hand through his auburn waves. "I don't know what I want long term. I just know that right now, this feels right." "Then that's enough for now," Hannah said, squeezing his hand. Over the next few days, they established a new normal. Hannah returned to work, while Lachlan continued his architectural projects. In the evenings, Hannah helped him refine his makeup techniques and took him shopping for more clothes, focusing on items that could transition between his personal and professional life. Tailored blouses, slim-cut trousers, and cardigans that worked with his frame. A week after Hannah's return, Lachlan stood in front of their bedroom mirror, dressed in a cream blouse and navy pencil skirt that Hannah had helped him select. His auburn hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, his makeup subtle but enhancing. "What do you think?" he asked Hannah, who was getting ready for work herself. She paused, studying his reflection. "I think you look ready to face the world on your own terms." Lachlan took a deep breath. "I'm thinking of going to work like this today." Hannah's eyebrows rose slightly, but she nodded. "Are you sure?"
"No,"
he admitted with a nervous laugh.
"but I feel like I'm living a double life, and it's exhausting."
Hannah came to stand beside him, both of them reflected in the mirror. Hannah in her typical work attire of a blazer and trousers, Lachlan in his new feminine clothes. Despite the differences in their appearances, there was a symmetry to them, a balance that felt right. "Whatever you decide, I'm with you," Hannah said, linking her arm through his. "Though if you're going to wear that outfit, those nude heels we bought would complete the look better than flats." Lachlan laughed, the tension breaking. "You're right. Heels it is." That day, Lachlan walked into his architectural firm, dressed fully as a woman for the first time. The reactions varied. Surprise, confusion, a few uncomfortable stares, but also smiles of support from colleagues he hadn't expected. His boss called him into her office mid-morning. "Is there something you'd like to discuss?" she asked, her tone neutral but not unkind. Lachlan straightened in his seat, the pencil skirt tight across his thighs. "I'm going through some personal changes," he said carefully. "This is who I am now, and I hope it won't affect how my work is perceived." His boss nodded slowly. "Your work has always been exceptional, Lachlan. That's what matters here. Do you prefer different pronouns now?" The question caught him off guard, but he realized the answer immediately. "She, her, please." It was the first time she had stated this preference out loud, and it felt simultaneously terrifying and right. "Noted," her boss said simply. "And is Lachlan still your preferred name?" She hesitated. She hadn't seriously considered a name change, but now that the question was posed directly, she realized Lachlan no longer felt quite right. "I'm considering other options," she admitted. "Let us know when you decide," her boss said. "In the meantime, there's the Richardson project to discuss." The rest of the meeting focused on work, and she left feeling a strange mix of relief and anticipation. On her lunch break, she called Hannah. "How's it going?" Hannah asked immediately. "Better than I expected," she replied, finding a quiet corner of the office courtyard to talk. "My boss asked about pronouns." "And?" I told her she, her. The words still felt new in her mouth, but increasingly comfortable. "That feels right," Hannah said, and she could hear the smile in her wife's voice. "Have you thought about names?" "Actually, yes. I've been thinking about Lauren." "Lauren," Hannah repeated. "Lauren and Hannah. It has a nice ring to it." That evening, they celebrated with a bottle of wine and a long conversation about the future. Lauren, as she now thought of herself, felt a sense of alignment she'd never experienced before, as if the disparate pieces of her identity were finally coming together. "I want you to know," Hannah said, refilling their glasses,
That I fell in love with who you are, not what you wore or how you looked. That hasn't changed.
Lauren felt tears spring to her eyes. Even though I've changed so much? You haven't changed as much as you think, Hannah said gently. You're still the same person who stays up too late working on designs, who makes terrible puns, who always remembers my birthday but forgets where you put your keys. You're just more yourself now. The following weekend, they reorganized their closet, combining their clothes instead of keeping them separated. Lauren donated most of her old men's clothing, keeping only a few sentimental items. Hannah helped her select new pieces that would work for different seasons and occasions. Every woman needs a little black dress, Hannah insisted, holding up a simple but elegant option. Lauren ran her hand over the fabric. I never thought I'd be shopping for a little black dress with my wife. Life is full of surprises, Hannah said with a smile. Some of them turn out to be exactly what we needed without knowing it. As summer turned to fall, Lauren settled more comfortably into her new identity. She legally changed her name and gender marker, a process that was bureaucratically tedious but emotionally significant. Her colleagues adjusted to the changes, some more quickly than others, but the initial awkwardness gradually faded. One evening in late September, Lauren came home to find Hannah had prepared a special dinner. Candles flickered on the dining table, and the scent of Lauren's favorite pasta sauce filled the air. What's the occasion? Lauren asked, setting down her work bag. Hannah handed her a glass of wine. 6 months since I left for Milan. 6 months since your journey began. Lauren took a sip of wine, reflecting on how much had changed in that time. I never imagined where finding your rose cleanser would lead. To think, all these years I thought my skincare addiction was just vanity, Hannah joked. Turns out it was destiny. They laughed together, settling into the comfortable rhythm they'd established over their years together, now enhanced by a new layer of understanding and acceptance. After dinner, they sat on the couch, Hannah curled against Lauren's side. Are you happy? Hannah asked, softly. Lauren considered the question, running her fingers through her auburn hair, now long enough to reach the middle of her back. Yes, she said finally. Not because everything is perfect, but because for the first time, I feel whole. Hannah reached up to touch her cheek. Your skin really does look amazing, you know. Better than mine now that you've got your own routine down. Lauren laughed. Well, I had an excellent teacher. As they sat together in the warm glow of the living room lamps, Lauren thought about the strange, winding path that had brought her to this moment. From curiosity to exploration to transformation, each step had led her closer to authenticity, and through it all, Hannah had been her constant, adapting and growing alongside her. Thank you, Lauren whispered, pressing a kiss to the top of Hannah's head. For what? For seeing me, the real me, even when I was still figuring out who that was. Hannah smiled up at her. That's what love is supposed to be, isn't it? Seeing the truth of someone, even when they're still discovering it themselves. Outside, the first leaves of autumn began to fall, golden and red against the darkening sky. Inside, Lauren and Hannah remained wrapped in the quiet comfort of their shared understanding, two women whose love had proven flexible enough to embrace change, strong enough to weather transformation, and deep enough to recognize the essential truth of each other's hearts. Lauren's auburn hair caught the lamplight as she leaned down to kiss her wife, grateful for the journey that had brought her home to herself, and for the partner who had walked beside her every step of the way. Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!